Let's dive right into this explainer, because today we're looking at what is literally one of the most incredible, death-defying travel stories in human history. We're heading back to the late 4th and early 5th centuries CE to track the epic pilgrimage of a Chinese Buddhist monk named Faxian. And, this wasn't just a walk in the park. It was a monumental cross-continental journey across Central Asia and India that essentially bridged two massive ancient worlds.
Seriously, just think about this for a second. Would you walk 10,000 kilometers without a map? What if you had zero GPS, no vehicles, no modern medical facilities, and no way to call for help? In the ancient world, stepping outside your own city walls was dangerous enough. So committing to a multi-year trek across freezing mountains and scorching deserts, that was basically looking death right in the eye. So why on earth did Faxian actually do it?
Well, here's the situation. During Faxian's time, Buddhism was spreading like wildfire in a politically divided China. But they had a massive problem. They were working with incomplete texts, terribly botched translations, and completely missing monastic rules, known as the Vinaya. Faxian realized the only way to get the true, uncorrupted teachings was to just go directly to the source, India, the authentic birthplace of Buddhism. It was a desperate, incredibly dangerous quest for the truth.
To really understand the man, we've got to look at his roots. Faxian was born around 337 CE, and his early life was marked by serious tragedy. Several of his brothers died young, so his parents actually dedicated him to the Buddhist monastic life, basically for protection and spiritual merit. Because he grew up so deeply religious, that childhood dedication forged this absolutely unshakable desire to preserve and perfect Buddhist teachings. He was all in.
So in 399 CE, he and a few fellow monks set out. And the sheer scale of this route is mind-blowing. They didn't just take an easy paved road. They trekked across the massive, brutal Gobi Desert. They moved through major Silk Route centers, places like Dunhuang, Khotan, and Kashgar, and then they tackled the Himalayas to cross into northwestern India. I mean, Himalayan travel back then was practically a death sentence. Freezing temperatures, starvation, treacherous passes, just brutal.
Actually, Faxian's own words captured the sheer terror of this trek better than I ever could. Staring down the unforgiving desert, he wrote that not even birds could be seen. No birds, no beasts. Just severe cold, no water, ruthless bandits, and the constant looming threat of death. This is a harrowing survival story just as much as it's a religious pilgrimage.
Part 1. Inside India's Golden Age.
Against all odds, he finally makes it and steps right into the heart of India's Golden Age. Now, his primary mission was obviously religious. He wanted to walk in the literal footsteps of Gautama Buddha. So he visited the absolute holiest sites. Lumbini, the birthplace, Bodh Gaya, where the Buddha reached enlightenment, Sarnath, the site of the first sermon, and Kushinagar, the site of Mahaparinirvana. And he didn't just sightsee. He meticulously documented the monasteries, the stupas, and local traditions at every single stop.
But Faxian wasn't just entirely focused on religion. He was also a highly observant foreigner walking through a totally vibrant society. He arrived during the Gupta Empire, specifically under the rule of Emperor Chandragupta II, and this era is famously known as the Golden Age of ancient India, a time defined by immense economic prosperity, cultural and scientific growth, and remarkable political stability. And his personal observations perfectly back up that Golden Age title. On the political side, he found a government that was surprisingly mild and efficient. People voluntarily followed laws, punishments weren't oppressively harsh, and serious crimes were super rare. Economically, he saw incredibly wealthy cities, abundant food, and highly active trade. People were just comfortable and safe.
Okay, this next detail absolutely blew my mind. Faxian documented the existence of charitable hospitals. Think about that. These were completely free institutions providing medical treatment, food, and medicine for the poor and for travelers. Finding evidence of a highly organized, compassionate welfare system operating this smoothly in the ancient world is just groundbreaking. He also took down some really sharp sociological notes. He observed the peaceful coexistence of Buddhism and Brahmanism, which is early Hindu tradition. He noticed that widespread vegetarianism and the concept of ahimsa, nonviolence, were prevalent. But he also didn't shy away from documenting the rigid, harsher realities of the caste system, specifically noting deep social divisions and the practice of untouchability with excluded groups like the Chandalas. Faxian wasn't just passing through either. He spent a long time actually living in the ancient city of Pataliputra.
He lived among thousands of monks, marveling at the giant buildings and the famous ruins left by Emperor Ashoka centuries earlier. Most importantly, this is where he actively studied Sanskrit so he could painstakingly copy those original, authentic monastic manuscripts he had risked his life to find.
Part 2. A stormy voyage home. So after years of study and traveling the Indian subcontinent, it was time to take those precious texts home. But Faxian was like, nope, not taking that deadly land route again. Instead, he opted for a totally different kind of danger, going back by sea. He sailed out from the port of Tamar-Lipti into the Indian Ocean. It wasn't a direct flight, though. He took a 2-year layover in Sri Lanka, another massive Buddhist hub, studying rituals and grabbing even more manuscripts, before traveling via Southeast Asia and finally making it back to China.
Now, if the desert was terrifying, the sea was an absolute nightmare. Faxian's accounts are amazing because they give us vital historical evidence of ancient maritime trade routes, but they're also filled with accounts of violent, relentless storms, massive ship damage, and just the constant suffocating fear of drowning. He really barely survived the Indian Ocean.
Part 3. The ultimate cultural bridge. Against all odds, he made it. He returned to China, older, definitely wiser, and carrying the exact knowledge his people so desperately needed. The crowning achievement of his life, well, aside from surviving the trip itself, is the book he wrote when he got back, Fuguoji, or The Record of Buddhist Kingdoms. It's not just a pilgrim's diary. It's a deep cultural observation, full of geography, administration, and religious practices. It remains one of the earliest, most detailed foreign accounts of India ever written. Of course, as a historical document, we do have to look at it critically. While its historical value is off the charts, giving us hard evidence of Gupta life, Silk Road routes, and urban prosperity, it does have its limitations. Faxian had a clear religious bias. I mean, he was a monk, so he naturally ignored a lot of political details, sometimes misunderstood local customs, and mostly stuck to northern India and specifically Buddhist regions. It doesn't represent the whole of India, but what it does capture is absolutely priceless. Faxian translated his texts, became incredibly respected, and spread accurate teachings that shaped East Asian Buddhism for centuries to come. His lasting legacy is honestly staggering. He's a preserver of tradition, a literal pioneer of early globalization, and today, a totally vital source for archaeologists trying to rediscover ancient ruins. His discipline completely paved the way for later famous travelers like Huanzong and I Ching. So, I want to leave you with this final thought. How much of ancient history would be lost forever if it weren't for brave travelers like Faxian? He risked literally everything for knowledge, armed with nothing but his faith and his curiosity. It's a powerful reminder of the extreme lengths humans will go to find the truth. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the history that built our world.